Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here at the crack of dawn. And I hope that you guys had fun at the conference yesterday. And, just to get started, just a quick question to the audience. And who here feels they're innovative? All right. Yeah. Great. Then for some of you that don't feel they are innovative, you're at the right place. The ones that are innovative, you are at the right place too. Then, innovation is one of the most important but most overused words in Silicon Valley. Just yesterday we heard innovation about like 10,000 times. Then today, we have a group of top women technologists who basically have been driving innovation in and inside and outside their companies. And we're going to discuss what innovation means first to get everybody on the same page. Then Grace, can you tell us what does innovation mean to you?
Well, sure. So, a lot of us, when we think about innovation, we think about disruptive innovation. That's what hits the headlines all the time, right? But to me, innovation is really about positive, impactful change to services, to products, to processes. So just like, the saying, you can see beauty in everything if you look all around you, there's actually innovation all around us every day if you look enough. And it's not all about just a disruptive innovation. Those little innovations that happen with everything that we do, from process to product to services, really make positive change in our communities, in our products, and with our customers. So I like to think of it in that incremental way. It's not just that high bar of disruptive innovation that we're talking about. It's about everyday innovation. So that's what innovation means to me.
So I like to think of innovation, and 3 words come to my mind. And the first one is that innovation isn't a noun. It's a verb. It's about the way you think about the world that you operate in, and as Grace said, about technology, about processes, and even about people. So I like to think about the process of thinking laterally, thinking about being in somebody else's shoes, solving a problem. The second thing I think about when I think about innovation, and is a challenge for many women, is challenging authority. The standard procedures, the norm in our businesses, in our lives, are ripe for thinking in different ways. So challenging, standing up to the authority of the way things are done today and looking for new ways of doing whatever it is that you're responsible for. And the last word that comes to mind for me is collaboration. The most innovative companies, the most innovative organizations are those that are open to lots of ideas, are diverse and inclusive. And innovation is everyone's job. It's not siloed into a specific organization with a specific title attached to it. It is, in fact, pulling on the expertise, the knowledge, and experience of all of those involved. And that's the way I like to think about innovation.
So for me, innovation from an engine perspective, most people think that you have to make dynamic leaps in changing your products or your platform. But from my perspective and my experiences, is basically, looking at the ways and the methods of how you do things and then improving upon them. So for instance, many things that I do from a platform and product perspective is, even as simple as changing the way you compute, right? The way you think about algorithm, returning a more personalized answer, trying to make it faster. And so you may have a product that works great in one market, but you go to a new market, a new region, a new customer segment. Then there's many things that you can think about of how can you innovate to make your product even better, more impactful, more experience, more engaging for them. And so many things that we do, oftentimes, we improve very incrementally, but over a period of time, the customer really sees the impact. Because what you also don't want to make is making jarring, weird product experiences that kind of shocks them. And so many of our experiments that we run also for very long periods of time to really to get the customers to learn about them, to get them to adapt to our product in the ways that we would like you to engage with our product, and then learning from them continuously. So for me, these incremental improvements over a period of time, even though they may be a short period of time, is actually quite a bit of leap for maybe our products and platform.
I guess for me, I would just add to that, I think all these definitions are great, that it can be around taking calculated risks, deciding when you want to take a risk and when you don't. I think a lot of it also depends on the life cycle stage that your product is in. When you're in a startup, you have a new product, it doesn't have very many users, you can take really, really big risks, because if you don't, you won't get anywhere if whatever you're doing isn't working. You hear about startups pivoting, trying very new big things. It's a very different situation than when you have a much larger product where people have been using it for 5-10 years and it has millions or billions of users. So I think that's something to think about, which is like, how can you take a risk? What would a risk look like? And then also, sometimes in order to mitigate that risk, how do you run an experiment? How do you test that out? And how do you see if you're moving in the right direction?
To me, innovation is about creating a new way of solving a problem. And that could be either inventing a new technology, a new business model, a new process, or kind of like quantum computing. It could be about a new combination of putting existing solutions together. When iPhone first came out in 2007, there wasn't anything breakthrough technologies per se, but the actual combination, that novel combination of putting those together to serve the customer better, to serve the users better, that was the innovation in iPhone. And then the other kind of innovation could be like you take a solution from one domain and apply it to another domain. Like there's a company in Palo Alto that's taken the 3D vision of autonomous cars and now applying it to home monitoring and surveillance. So innovation to me is always about addressing someone's problem in a very novel way. And innovation for sake of innovation to me is not innovation. So it always has to be about serving in service of solving a problem.
Great, thank you. Then, our panelists shared about incremental innovation, that it's a verb, as everybody's job. We take dynamic leaps and experiment, and, putting existing solutions together. And we all see innovation when we see it. One of the big differences between having a good idea and actually innovation is execution. And our panelists are going to share, a personal experience now where they have where they have driven innovation inside and outside the company. Then, Asida, could you please start sharing your experience?
Sure. So in my current job, we actively look for external innovation to bring to Nokia to serve our customers or to reduce our R&D costs and also to reduce costs in general. So the first thing is really finding out all kinds of our industry and adjacent industry that can affect us, and the kinds of technology, business processes, or even business models that we could take from somewhere else and bring it in. So we look for companies in that domain, and then when we have to, I always call it an art and science when you bring innovation into a company, because the science part is to see if the requirements that you have internally match what innovators outside are doing. So that's one part of it, which is more scientific. But the art is you never find something that exactly fits. So you have to figure out how to come up with creative ways that these things can match together and create something bigger and better. So that part requires a lot of evangelizing on both sides. So after you evaluate the technology, you make sure that it's something that has a good potential. Then you find the right landing zones in the company, and then you go talk to these people and make sure that they can see not just the fact that it might not fit right away, but that there is a potential that things can fit. And then you move it forward from there. You have to do proof of concepts, and then after that, do more evaluation. And then if everything works out, we either partner with the company, or we invest in the company, or we acquire the company. So it's again, it's a lot of science in terms of evaluating, but also there's a lot of art in terms of being creative in finding the right ways of finding the match, and also promoting and evangelizing on both sides.
I'll talk a little bit about two different types of innovation for a product that I work on. So has anyone here used Google Play to download apps and games? Yeah? So one question I always like to ask people is, where do you think those apps came from, right? Those apps that you download from the Google Play Store came from somewhere, and they came from developers, which are organizations all over the world that are tasked with building new apps and games. And the product that I worked on was the Google Play developer products. And there were two types of innovation that we had. One was, if we're trying to entice developers to build for Google Play and the Android platform, how can we use our developer product suite as a differentiator? What could we give these developers that would be new and different, that wasn't being offered by other app stores, that would make them feel more excited about investing more in the Google Play and Android platform? And then the second type of innovation we were looking at was actually each one of these organizations themselves wanted to innovate. If you're publishing a new game or a new app, there's literally over 1 million already out there. So how is yours going to stand out? And so when I was leading Google Play developer products, these were the two lenses that we would look at. So it all started by a deep understanding of who your customer is, what their needs are, what else is out in the market, and then what strengths we could leverage from within our company, Google, in order to build something new. So the first thing that we looked at was what developers wanted and what other app stores offered. And so what we understood there was, you know, at the time, a number of years back, early on in the life of app stores, you would publish an app update, and then you would wait for a very long time for your update to be approved, right? I'm seeing some nodding, so I think this was something that maybe at least one person in the audience has gone through, at least more than one, actually. And so we realized, well, that doesn't seem to be something that our developers like. So could we innovate on that? Even just the simple process of how long it took to publish an update. And so we offered some different processes where we were still able to do reviews, but much faster. And so developers noticed, and they said, well, that's something I always like a little bit better about Google Play. And then we looked at what else they might want. And it seemed like developers were always desperate for more data about who's installing my app. Where are those people based? What can I learn about those users? You know, how can I gather feedback about my new product or my updated product in order to better inform their own product lifecycle and development? And so we said, well, you know, at Google, we have Google Analytics, and that's something we're pretty good at. And so how can we maybe offer a little bit more data to those app developers? How can we give them the ability to deep dive and manage customer feedback and be able to see what's really happening and understand how their business is growing or not growing? So we said, well, yeah, that seems like a match there between what our developers want and what we're able to offer. And so we launched a bunch of new features for developers that would help them be able to publish quickly, be able to get more information about the market that they were reaching. And so what we started seeing was this virtuous cycle, is that people would get something special from Google Play that they couldn't get from any other app store. And that would motivate them. They'd say, wow, actually I can have these really tight feature development loops on your platform. You know, if I have a new feature and I want to get feedback on it, actually if I launch it on Google Play, and we had some new features around beta testing that were really helpful, they would just want to keep launching again and again and again, and they would want to use us for experimenting and testing new things because they could learn so much faster. And so what ended up happening was when we listened to our customers, we understood their needs, how they were trying to distinguish themselves in the market, build high quality apps and games. They really started seeing, oh, Google Play can be a better partner for me in doing this. And so developers started to get more and more interested and wanted to invest more and more. And so as a result, we were able to start unlocking more innovation in our platform and new features coming to the platform first because we understood developers' needs, the sorts of feedback they needed to iterate well. And so we were very excited to be able to create not only innovation for our own customers, but they could innovate for their customers as well.
So at Uber, currently some of the things that we're working on, for an example, would be customer engagement. It used to be that we transport you somewhere, and then when you ask us for something, we're like, oh, what can we do for you? We support you. But now we're trying to change it to say it's an engagement. We want your experience with us from end to end to be delightful, to be pleasant, and how you interact with us. So it's not that we want to say, have I solved your problem? And you say yes or no, and you leave us. We want to say, hey, what else can we do for you? So that if we didn't do something right for you, you're giving us a second opportunity and a chance to do something different. So we've changed the way our algorithm is triggered on who you are as a customer, and also what we know about you when you come to talk to us. Like, you know, I should be able to know you took a ride from point A to point B, and it took you too long, or the map route deviated. So when you actually engage with us, we're like, oh, yeah, we noticed the last trip you took was sort of like this. Is that what you want to talk about today? You know, and it could be great, then we can move on. So you're like, oh, good, they understood me and they're helping me through, right? Or you could be like, oh, no, I want to talk about something else. Well, this is great. So in the back of the thing, it's like we're trying to learn to make the experience delightful and the next person that's similar experience to be impactful to answering their questions. Right? And then what we also try to do afterwards is really dig in to say, if we did this really well, please rate us and see how well we did. So in the areas that we do really well, we're going to try to automate it to improve the efficiency and automation inside of our platform and our services. And so the next time you talk, it doesn't have to be a human person, but the experience is still as delightful. In the areas that you actually tell us, you're way off base, you have no idea what's happened, like, oh, this is where we dig in as a team to say, what happened? Did we not know you at all? Something went wrong. And then what are we going to learn from it? And then asking and engage with you to say, hey, so we're way off base on what really happened. How was that experience after all? And so one of the things we also do in this part, how we innovate of engagement is everybody around the world engages us differently. Their preferences, their style, the way communication. So Uber's now trying to figure out where's our customers around the world, what are they like, how do they want to be engaged with us? And in every method, channel, modal that you want to engage with us, we're going to be there. We're going to be there to say, hello, here we are, what can we do for you? And many folks, you know, who like to, you can still visit our 600 plus sites around the world, or if you like to, you don't mind being on a call, wait for an agent, we still have that as well, or fill an online form where you don't want to engage with anyone. So many things that we do across the markets, every business line we have is just finding different ways to do better and better and how we could be there for you whenever you want to talk to Uber or you need something from us.
You're hearing some common themes. Start with a customer problem, understand the data, and respond to it effectively. So here's my story. Unlike my friends and colleagues up here, my company works with businesses. We're not a direct consumer organization, and that represents both some opportunities and some challenges. My role at Salesforce is customer success, and considering that it's Mark's highest value, it's a pretty tall order. Why is that the case? Because as a cloud service provider, you have to earn the right to do business with the customer every single day. There are no residuals. So when they walk away from an agreement, they walk away, which means that their experience from the from the moment of hello is a very important experience. So when I joined Salesforce 4.5, almost 5 years ago, I had no idea what customer success was. In fact, it was a fairly new domain. And there wasn't a lot of information about it and how to go about doing it well. So I think one of the things that should be an undercurrent here is, and I actually, even though we don't work for Microsoft anymore, quote something Satya said recently, don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all. So I had to be a student of what this business was about and what we were trying to achieve. And I gave myself the self-proclaimed title of Chief Customer Love at Scale. Now, what does that mean? That means that from the minute the customer trusts us with their business, we need to help them be successful. And so what I did is I got no budget, a very small team, and rather than getting a set of business objectives, I got a deadline to launch. And that deadline to launch was about 2.5 months from the day I started with the company. So it was a fairly daunting task. And ultimately, what led us to be successful were the things that I talked about when I defined innovation for you. We started with, how do we think about this problem in a very different way? How do we take what we do today in a humanistic interaction, if you will, a concierge experience with larger customers, and turn that into a great experience through technology programs and other technical assets. We also took technology that most people think of as something that helps you generate pipe, a nurturing campaign, an email marketing tool, and we turned it into a technology to help drive a path of adoption to identify the critical moments of truth that customers struggled with in terms of implementing our technology. And we are voracious data consumers. So all of this was backed up by data. We inferred what a customer needed to do. We detected what they were actually doing, and then we responded all based on the data that we were collecting. So a small group, and I'm talking about a very small group of people over a 2.5-month period of time, chose to take on a challenge that changed the way Salesforce did business with small and medium customers. And I think we're pretty proud to say that as of today, we've created a lot of love at scale.
So I work for a company called Roblox, which many of you may not know because our core demographic user is from age 8 to 18. We have 62 million active players on the social and gaming platform every month. 62 million. And I run developer relations. In developer relations, we have on the order 1.9 million creators. Creators spans the spectrum of developers and builders and designers and all the people that are involved in building these immersive 3D experiences on Roblox. And in the United States, we're approaching 50-50 girls and boys ratio, which is wonderful. Wonderful, especially to me, because in developer relations, most actually of our developers have grown up as players on the platform, and then they bootstrapped themselves, taught themselves how to code and build on our platform as early as ages 12 and 13. Our top developers are in their late teens, 17, 18 years old. Some of them are in their low 20s, and some of them are on track to make 3 million this year, 2 million this year, 1 million this year. It's amazing. And these are people that have, by and large, taught themselves how to program. So from an innovation perspective, I look at this. This is a tremendous opportunity to really rebuild the developer pipeline. We all talk about this at conferences like this, which is how do we get more women? How do we get more diversity into the developer pipeline? And really, it's starting at a much younger age than what we have been targeting in a lot of our programs. The programs we have in companies today are reactive programs that don't really move the needle that much. You have to start at a much earlier age where you can influence the kids before they make those strong decisions that, oh, computer science is not for me. Oh, math is not for me. You have to give them programs, content, curriculum that is really engaging for them. And so Roblox, what I'm driving is curriculum that we're going to give away for free to after-school programs, summer camps, and educational programs in general. And we're going to build a teacher community around this so that we can have ongoing, new, fresh curriculum across the globe to attract really young developers. We're going to start targeting with middle school kids. This is a great age group to target to get that influence of, hey, this can be for you. And it isn't simply just teaching them computer science, because you can actually build a business on Roblox, and some of them are actually literally doing this at very young ages. And so they have examples of peers that are actually building businesses as young as 13, 14 years old, making real money. Right? So this is about teaching them useful computer science skills as well as entrepreneurial skills that we're going to push out to these different programs. I'm really proud of that because I really think this is where we move the needle in changing the dynamics of what's happening to the diversity of our pipeline. So, from an innovation perspective, I look at that from a programs perspective. We have lots of other programs that we run. We bring some of our top developers in for what we call accelerator incubator programs, where they sit with us for 3 to 5 months, depending on the program. We pay them to be with us, and they build their games alongside with us, and they help push the platform limits. The success of our platform is all about UGC, right? It's all user-generated content. And so in those programs, we're looking to not just actively ask for applications, but recruit. We're going to start now actively recruiting for diversity in those programs to diversify that mix of developers that's coming to us on site as well. So those are a couple examples of innovation that we're doing at Roblox.
Thank you so much. I heard a lot about customer-centric innovation and that anybody can be an innovator. Then However, many times women don't feel necessarily that they are innovative, and everybody has good ideas, and we talked about how we actually drive the execution. Then what advice would you give, very, very briefly, so that we have time for questions, to somebody that wants to drive an idea and how to move it forward?
So I'll keep this pretty simple. A lot of what we talked about earlier about innovation is solving problems and bringing new ideas. It's about the execution, as Claudia said, and in that execution you have to have just sheer willpower and persistence, because these problems are difficult, right? And so just being persistent and not letting the naysayers, get you down and tell you that you can't do it. Stay focused and just keep going, drive forward, always forward.
So the second and third words that came to mind when I was defining innovation for you were challenging authority and collaboration. I think those are both something that women are challenged with, challenging authority and questioning the norm, and something that women generally are very good at, and that's collaboration. So I think that you don't have to look too far to find a problem. Think of any problem that you believe has resonance in your community, whether it's inside your company or outside of your company, and then build a community of collaborators to help solve that problem. You don't have to look very far. So start small and collaborate away. That's my advice.
For me, it would be continuous learning. If you need ideas and juices to get going, then you should go out and learn, right? Talk to people. Read, look up things, join groups and forums. There's a lot of things out there. Find out, what are people in this space doing? What are they talking about? Who are some of the thought leaders and what are they doing, right? And then continue learning and adapting yourself. If you're not able to find to get yourself started, and I don't know about you, but mostly for me, a lot of my creative ideas come at night, so in my nightstand I have a pen and a pad. I jot a lot of stuff down that comes to me. And so I'm constantly just looking at these things to say, oh, I should read upon this. Oh, I was thinking about this, or I talked to someone, right? And then after that you follow up, and then it'll get you going. But whatever that it is, because everything is constantly changing, so you want to continue to always learn, and then it'll give you lots of ideas to get started on.
When I talk to women about innovation, a lot of it is broken down into two problems. One, I don't have a good idea. And number two, well, if I did, I don't know if I'd really want to carry through with it. So one of the things I do in my spare time is improv comedy. And I think that that can be helpful for both of those problems. So the first one is about generating ideas. When I work with my team in brainstorming, one of the ideas I take from improv comedy is we're going to turn off our judgment. We're actually going to just turn it off. And I'm interested for this brainstorming session in all the ideas. I'm interested in the good ideas and the terrible ideas. And we're not going to judge the ideas. We're just going to generate as many ideas as possible. And that allows us to explore a whole bunch of different directions that we can go in. And it opens up the atmosphere so people don't say, well, I don't want to raise that idea because I can already see problems with it. Well, actually, maybe that idea, even if it has problems, those problems might be overcome. So I like to say to people, let's just not judge our ideas. Let's generate as many ideas. Let's see where those ideas can take us. And then later, we'll come in and select the ideas that we think are the best. The second is once you have your idea that you think has a lot of promise, what do you do? And that really comes down to your appetite for risk-taking. And I think this is something where I think maybe men have it easier than women on the average. It's not true for everybody. But again, I go back to my improv background. When you do improv comedy, you're used to failing a lot. You're used to getting up on stage and having people laugh at you, but not always in a good way. So what I would say is if you want to be an innovator, and I hope that you do, I would just say get comfortable with risk. Make friends with risk. Feel that feeling that you get in your stomach when you're about to take a risk, and you say, there's the I'm about to take a risk feeling. And people ask me, well, when does that feeling go away? How do I just make that feeling never happen to me so that I can feel 100% comfortable taking risks? And I'll say, that feeling will always be there. It's how you decide to embrace it and say, oh, that's the risk feeling. That's my body telling me I'm about to take a risk, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. And so the more comfortable you can get with taking risks and finding little opportunities throughout your day, whether it's going up to someone new at this conference or deciding on something bigger that you want to do, it's all about feeling comfortable and saying, I'm going to take risks, and you know what? Most of the time, it's not that bad.
For me, it's about not focusing on being an innovator. It's really focusing on solving a problem and trusting yourself that when you see a problem, you can solve it, that there's a better way of approaching that problem. And by doing that and trusting that, by experimenting and keep tinkering with things. I think one of the things that maybe women should practice with is, if it doesn't work the first time, keep working it, keep working different angles of it, and eventually you'll be able to solve the problem. So I would say, just look at the problems you have. Don't wait for someone else to solve it. You go ahead and trust yourself that you solve it, and by virtue of doing that, you'll become an innovator.
Thank you so much. Then we have 5 minutes left for maybe one question, if anybody has a question.
Hi, my name is Anu. I'm here with my daughter and her good friend who are in high school. I wanted to know, for high school girls, to encourage them to go into STEM, what would you advise, since they're both here and listening to you, and what resources would you recommend?
So I highly encourage you both to really consider this. There are lots and lots of resources today, which is great, especially here in this area. There's multiple summer camps that are available in terms of, especially girls in tech. So there's Alexa Cafe and ID Tech, which focuses specifically on, getting girls comfortable around tech and programming together in a very community-driven way. It's also a very safe environment. So a lot of these summer camps, unfortunately, they're still predominantly boys, and that can be a little overwhelming for some girls, because then it starts to feel like, oh, this is a boy thing. But even if you do go to a camp like that, I'd say, don't let that sort of get you down, because the thing is, you stand up and and take that opportunity, because a career in tech, and I have 2 girls myself, a career in tech is just so amazing. You can do so much. I've traveled the world with my career, and I've done everything from engineering to marketing to now developer relations for the last 12 years. There are so many different nuances in the tech career. It's not just programming. You can be technical and do marketing. You can be technical and do developer relations. You can be technical and be a product manager. There are so many options, and with the kind of financial power you get in these kinds of careers, you can do so much with your life. And so for that reason alone, I really encourage you to look at this track. A lot of schools also have opportunities for you to opt into computer science programs whenever that is available. I highly encourage you to do that. As Roblox starts to roll out, look for our curriculum as well, both at after-school programs and summer camps. Those will be programs that will not just teach you about computer science, but about running your business as well.
So I also have a daughter who just recently started high school as well. And the past several years in junior high, I would also, as to what Grace was saying, I sent her to a lot of camps because it's more social, it's more fun, and it's during the summertime, and it's a little safer away from high school and your friends. And so just to get her started, and then when she went to high school, we looked at all the electives. She's like, I don't want computer science, Mom. I don't want this, I don't want that, because it's all boys. And what I told her, I said, well, let's take a look at some of these things. And there's many things into a tech career. And so I actually was trying to get her to like things of design, things of art, things that would actually be more natural to her taking the next step into STEM. And so as she gets more comfortable already through coding, and now she wasn't sure she likes it, and now she's going to go to design. She's like, oh, I like art, I like music, I like videos, I like to do things with my friends. And so getting her then to be taking that next step to be the creative side, which is where she's at, and then adding the social element to it with being with her friends. Now her group is actually getting much more comfortable in interacting together online and through a computer and through design. And so that could also be something that I would recommend going, where it's much more comfortable and yet it's social and engaging.
Well, please join me in thanking our panel.